I am shaking now, and I am sure my face shows a lot of what I am feeling. You knew how I was feeling, and yet you decide to hurt me? You are a jerk, I snap. Harrison flinches and regains his composure. I had to do it for reasons, okay? I'm willing to make it up to you. No matter how long it's going to take, Jesse. It could take 5 years. I'll still be waiting. I'll be waiting until I'm old and shriveled. I'm willing to do this for you. I look at him. Pure determination is written all over his eyes, and his face doesn't show any humor, a sign that he isn't joking around. However, I can't let him hurt me anymore. I'm done with that. I wipe away a stray tear. I scoff and put on a fake smile. I'd like to see you try. Before I can register what is happening, Harrison walks over to me. He grabs my face with his hands and crashes his lips on mine. I stood still, not responding to the kiss. Shock couldn't even explain the situation I was in right now. My eyes almost bulged out of its sockets. Harrison's lips were warm against mine. It molded perfectly with my heart-shaped lips. Small tingles made its way from my mouth down to my insides, making me feel complete. It was as if I finally found the missing piece to a puzzle. I felt ecstatic at first, but realization of what a jerk he was made me come to my senses. I pushed him away with my hands and put them on my hips. I glared at him, hoping that daggers came out and stabbed him. You're a pain in the ass. I'm not going to forgive you so easily, I finally said, breaking the awkward silence. Harrison stiffened and was about to say something, but I quickly continued, feeling awkward. I think that the matter of the moment is who's trying to kill me. I shuddered at the thought, suddenly feeling very cautious of my surroundings. Who is this darkness angel? I would like to know that myself. Harrison's voice dripped with venom. He looked at me. Jesse, don't worry. I'll kill the bastard. You can't just walk alone anymore. We need to keep an eye on you. It's not safe. I'll call Brian, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to ask for his help. The sincerity of his words made me feel calm. I believed him. It was weird, but I did. Why is this person trying to kill me anyways? And are werewolves even affected by silver bullets? I don't know, Jesse. The darkness angel knows something we don't, and before it gets to you, I'm going to kill him. Or her. Silver bullets don't affect us, unless it is shot at our hearts. Otherwise, if it shoots anywhere else, we would feel the pain. But it won't take long to heal. The only thing that can kill us is beheading, silver touching our hearts, and old age. What? Before I could finish my question, my cell phone rang. I gestured to Harrison to wait a moment. Hello, I answered. Yeah, see? Jesse, where the hell are you? Andrew's worried voice came from the other end. We've been waiting for you for... Andrew, calm down. The librarian had a hard time finding the book I was looking for. I lied. Anyways, I'm heading there now. I hung up before he could ask any more questions. I started walking away, but Harrison grabbed my arm. Jesse, you can't just walk alone. I'll walk you there. Plus, did you forget we're in the middle of the woods? Instead of holding his hand, I held onto the belt loop of his jeans. This bastard is certainly not going to gain satisfaction from me anytime soon. However, I still felt the warmth of his lips on mine. I wanted more. It was as if it sliced my heart open, but not in a painful way, but a nice way. But I couldn't think of that now. All I could think of was who the hell was trying to kill me, and why. Harrison dropped me off at the corner of the street where Froyo was at. He didn't want Amanda and Andrew to see him. Believe me or not, I thanked Harrison for saving my life. Before we parted ways, we exchanged numbers, just in case something happened to me again. Don't tell anyone, Jesse. I mean it. Not even your brother, Harrison warned. All right. How many times are you going to tell me that? I sighed and walked away, waving goodbye to him. I made my way to Amanda and Andrew. I half expected Andrew to be pissed off at me, that he was my big brother and always gave in when I started to tear up. Oh my, what happened to you? Amanda asked. Andrew stayed quiet and studied me, worry filling his expression. Amanda fixed my hair, and her gaze dropped down to my neck. Is that blood? Jessica, what happened? Andrew finally asked and came over to me, inspecting my neck. I tripped on my way back here, I lied. So, why is the blood all dried up already? Andrew asked suspiciously. Honey, now's not the time for questions. Let's take her to the hospital, Amanda answered and smacked Andrew's shoulder. No, no. Really, I'm fine. I'll just get Aunt Kara to clean this up for me. It's just a couple of scratches and dirt. No harm done, I said, quickly waving off the situation. Okay, Andrew gave in. Let's go. And Jesse, you better not be lying to me. Dax. After Aunt Kara cleaned my wounds and asked multiple questions, I was beginning to get tired. I got the exact expression I thought Aunt Kara would give me. Complete and utter horror. Andrew, Amanda, and Aunt Kara asked me questions, and I did as Harrison told me. To lie to them. I felt bad, believe me, but I had no other choice. My story was simple. I was running from the library, not wanting Andrew and Amanda to wait for me. I didn't see that there was a bump on the sidewalk, and therefore, I tumbled down, hitting a couple of broken beer bottles some drunken men left. Amanda and Aunt Kara believed me, but Andrew did not let me go so quickly. I couldn't believe I was in a situation like this. I couldn't believe I was just thrown into a world I thought only existed in movies and fiction novels. Most certainly, I felt like a heroine. Like Bella in Twilight. Like Lois Lane in Superman. I sighed and told Andrew and the two ladies that I was going to take a bath and head to bed. Exhaustion took the best out of me. I had a very long night, and I couldn't wait to be in my warm, safe bed. I still couldn't shake the feeling that someone wanted to kill me. Who could it possibly be? And why would they want to? I haven't done anything bad in the past few weeks. I was here. I thought I would have gotten a fresh start at finally being normal. Again, normal wouldn't even be found in the descriptions of my personality. I quickly ascended the stairs and went into my huge bedroom. Going into the bathroom, I switched on the light. I turned to the mirror, checking out how horrible I claimed to look. I froze, unable to even make a step. There on my mirror was a paper that was taped to secure its place. Written in black Sharpie marker, it read, "Just because you got away tonight doesn't mean you're safe. Watch your back, Jesse. Your precious little boyfriend won't be able to save you for long. Love, the Darkness Angel." With shaky hands, I tore the paper off from my mirror, crumpling it into a ball and throwing it at the far side of my bathroom. Horror started at the pit of my stomach and started shaking uncontrollably. How did they get into my bathroom? Was this some type of sick joke? My room was locked the whole time I was out. Quickly getting out of the bathroom, I dialed Harrison's number. "Jesse, what's wrong?" Harrison answered the phone quickly. "See, can you come here?" I stuttered, unable to be calm. Jesse, where you at? H home. Please come. I started tearing up. "Please, I'll sneak in through your window. I'll be there in 5. He wasn't joking when he came here in 5 minutes. I quickly opened my window and let Harrison in. He wasn't alone, though. Followed closely behind him was Brian and Scott. "What did you find?" Harrison asked calmly. E-A-N. Note. "It's in the B bathroom," I said, still shaking in fear. Harrison walked over to the bathroom while Brian and Scott inspected my room. I started sobbing uncontrollably, and Scott glanced at me. He came over to me and hugged me. I cried into his shirt. "We'll find them, Jesse," he promised. Before I could say anything else, Harrison came out and stared at me and Scott for a while before clearing his throat. I quickly pulled away from Scott, knowing what kind of feelings were going on with Harrison at the moment. His face clearly showed it all. After explaining to me what a mate was and how affective it could be, he wasn't afraid to show me how he was feeling. Harrison clenched and unclenched his fists while handing the note over to Scott to read. "I'm going to kill whoever this Darkness Angel is," Harrison said, gritting his teeth. Brian seemed lost in thought as he climbed out into the balcony. "Jesse, is this your necklace?" he asked, holding up a silver chain that had a diamond-encrusted S hanging from it. "No," I calmly answered, knowing I was safe for now. It was beautiful, and I stared at it for a long time. I've never seen that necklace before, and it did a great job of giving me goosebumps. "That necklace looks familiar," Harrison said, drifting off into space. His eyebrows knitted together. Obviously, he was trying to recall where he's seen it before. "Harrison, that's Daisy's necklace," Scott finally said after thinking. He blinked a couple of times and repeated, disbelievingly, "That's Daisy's necklace. I can't believe I was sneaking out." I wasn't one to disobey my mom, mainly because I was scared of her. 2. I respected her enough to follow her simple rules. No drinking, no sneaking out, no keeping secrets. Looks like I already broke 2 of those rules. I wouldn't have snuck out if I wasn't in this situation. Did this mean Daisy wanted to kill me? But why? Looks like I had to wait and find out. Harrison called a last-minute meeting at the Pack house with both the Avalon Pack and the Raven Pack, excluding Daisy. I had to come along because Harrison feared it wasn't safe to be alone anymore. I gladly took his offer, not wanting someone to come and kill me while I sleep. The Pack house was small, but cozy. Scott had told me that it was the place they held meetings at and such. The small fireplace was lit up and warmed up the room to a comfortable state. Scott sat beside me on the couch, while Brian and Harrison had a silent conversation amongst themselves. It was hard to believe that werewolves do exist, and that someone was out there to kill me. Specifically, Daisy White. 1 month ago, Betty introduced me to her. She was beautiful beyond belief. She had white blonde, perfectly straight hair and sapphire eyes that screamed friendly and innocent. Well, I counted her as friendly, because she was one of the people who stood up for me while Harrison tortured me to no extent. But I guess those are the types of people you just have to look out for. Jesse, just clear your head for now. Daisy will be in a heap of trouble once the experts find out, Scott reassured me. Thanks for trying to comfort me, Scott. But, I'm sorry to say this, but it's not working, I sighed. I heard distant footsteps and murmuring down the hall. Betty, Nell, and Perry strolled in, followed by Jennifer, James, Clark, and Sam. They had serious expressions dawned on their perfect faces, and they took a quick glance at me before taking their seats on any chair they found in the small room. Harrison and Brian strolled in and remained standing. Okay, so as you all know, Jesse is not safe, Harrison said, knitting his eyebrows. You're starting the meeting without Daisy? Jennifer asked. I flinched at the mention of her name. Babe, she's not here. She's with her mom right now, Nell answered. Don't call her babe, James retorted. Why the hell are we having a meeting with the Raven Pack anyways? Perry asked, folding his arms in irritation. Maybe if you shut up you'd find out, Clark growled. Quiet down, Brian yelled over the bickering. The room fell into an awkward silence. You will listen to Harrison. Everyone in the room nodded at the 2 alphas. They had no choice but to listen and follow orders. I still find that fascinating and quite confusing. Harrison cleared his throat. Jessie was almost killed tonight, as all of you know. She also received a death threat, and we might think it came from Daisy. The tension in the room just intensified, and everyone looked at Harrison in disbelief. We found her necklace in Jessie's room as evidence, Brian continued, holding up the necklace. Everyone gasped. But she's not here, Nell repeated, shaking his head. And why would she want to kill Jessie? That's the thing. We think she just made that excuse up so she could make up a plan, Harrison said. As for why would she want to kill Jessie, I wouldn't know. There is one thing, Sam said. Everyone in the room whipped their heads to look at him. I, myself, was shocked too. He was hardly the sociable type and didn't like talking in front of a crowd, even this small. Jealousy? I think Sam may be right, Betty nodded. Harrison, you remember how Daisy liked you since the 1st grade, but you never gave her the time of day. She was always mad about that, Scott said, and the next thing that came out from his mouth made me turn as red as a tomato. And Jessie is Harrison's mate. It makes perfect sense now. Wait, hold up, Jennifer shrieked, holding up her hand for emphasis. You're saying that Daisy is trying to kill Jessie because of jealousy? And you're saying that Jessie is the jerkface's mate? Exactly, Scott replied. Okay, as much as I would like to keep talking about this, I have to get Jessie back into bed, Harrison said. Everyone looked at him and gasped, obviously thinking the wrong way. Oh, that's it, Jennifer hissed and tried to march over to Harrison. James held her back, once again. Her face was red and blotchy with anger. Not that way, I yelled in disbelief. Gosh, guys. I have to get back home before my brother finds that I snuck out. I arrived home and snuck into my window, carefully and quietly. Scott and Brian were on patrol tonight, guarding my house from the outside while Harrison happily agreed to sleep over with me. Great, I was stuck with stupid. After taking a shower and putting on my pajamas, I climbed into bed. You know, I was so tired. I was about to close my eyes when I heard the bathroom door open. Light spilled out of the bathroom and it was quickly shut off. Sorry, Harrison murmured. I looked at him, only to find him in low-hung sweatpants and no shirt. There were little water droplets on his bare chest. He didn't look like a Greek god, but, oh, it's my gosh. I groaned and shoved my face into my pillows when I saw him smirk. Let me guess. That's what you wear to sleep, I said. Can't you be sincere like me and wear t-shirts and shorts? Don't pretend that you don't like it, he joked. So, where do I sleep, sweetheart? On the couch. He was lucky I had a couch in my room. Otherwise, he would have slept on the hard, cold ground. Harrison went over to the couch and laid comfortably on it. I was about to close my eyes, but his stupid, irritating voice interrupted me. Can I ask some pillows? I groaned and threw a pillow at his head. Ouch! After a moment of silence, he spoke again. I think it would be more comfortable sleeping next to you. I glared at him. Even in the darkness, I could see that annoying smirk on his face. Then, an idea popped into my head. It was my turn to torture him. Nothing sweeter than revenge, right? I stood up and walked over to the couch slowly. Harrison's eyebrows shot up and he squirmed uncomfortably. I climbed on top of him, straddling his waist. I ran my hands up his torso. I smiled in satisfaction when I heard him groan. Jesse, what are you doing? I ignored his question and gave his neck a kiss. He shivered. Just the reaction I was looking for. I almost burst out laughing when I felt a bulge in his pants. I looked into his eyes and I was so close to his face. My lips were a hair's breadth away from his. I froze at first, feeling my heartbeat quicken. However, that wasn't my plan. So, I smiled sweetly and said, "Payback's a bitch." I hopped off him and started chuckling quietly. "Oh, game on, Turner," Harrison said, completely flustered. I just laughed and rolled my eyes. Game on, indeed. I absolutely hate where I ended up. It seems like I'm just a bad luck magnet or a walking disaster. Perhaps I'm both. I sighed in discomfort as I looked behind me once more. Ever since I found that eerie note in my bathroom, paranoia took the best of me. I had to make sure I wasn't alone most of the time, even in my own room. If I were alone, I would always have to look behind my back when walking or make sure my curtains were drawn and no one could see inside. Both the Raven Pack and the Avalon Pack has teamed up in an effort to keep me safe and patrol around my house at night. Harrison no longer slept on my couch after he claimed I made a move on him. I snorted at that comment and muttered a sarcastic, "Yeah, right." You're probably wondering why I never reported this to the cops. It's very unlikely that a teenage girl runs into a police station saying that a werewolf is assaulting her. You're probably also wondering why we haven't just ratted out Daisy to the experts. Simple. We have no absolute evidence besides the necklace, and we have no clue to where she could possibly be right about now. Obviously, she's closer than we think. Relief washed over me when I realized it was just the normal wave of students filing through the entrance. The usual shouting and horseplaying erupted throughout the hallway. I saw that no one gave me suspicious glances or looked suspicious in any way, besides those who had a reason to be, such as the troublemakers or the drug users. I made my way to my locker, twisting the rusty knob that squeaked a little with every turn. I groaned in frustration when it didn't open. I stomped my feet a couple times, like a little child would do, ignoring the amused stares of the people around me. I was already having a bad week. Even the littlest things made me angry. An arm shot out above my shoulder, banging my locker 3 times in a rhythmic pattern. Miraculously, the locker opened slowly, squeaking as it did. I turned around to face Brian. "Thank you," I simply replied and gave him a small smile. "And good morning." Brian leaned against the lockers. He had dark circles underneath his brown eyes, and he had a little stubble on his chin. His shoulders sagged in exhaustion. "Good more." He yawned deeply, rubbed his eyes, and shook his head furiously in an attempt to wake him up. "Good morning, Jesse." I sighed and looked down at my white ballet flats. "Look, maybe you guys should stop patrolling now. Nothing bad has happened so far. Plus, I don't want to be a burden or someone you always have to worry about when you have so much other important things to do." "Jesse, you aren't a burden," Brian replied, defending himself. There is nothing more important than a best friend's safety. Look, it's our job as werewolves to keep people safe. We're supposed to get used to this anyways. When we take our spots in the expert council, that's all we're gonna do. I know, but... No buts, Missy. Just when I was about to reply, the warning bell rang, signaling everyone to their homerooms and first period. I reached up on my tiptoes and kissed Brian's cheek. Thank you, Brian. You're like the brother I've always wanted. But you already have a brother. No buts, mister, I joked and stuck my tongue out at him while shutting my locker. I made my way to Mr. George's room, taking my usual seat next to Jennifer. Good morning, Dee, she smiled encouragingly at me, telling me all hell will be over soon. Hey, Abs, I sighed. Look, it'll be over soon. Hopefully, I groaned. I'm sure Harrison will keep you safe. I grimaced and let out a laugh. Sure, and I'm sure pigs will fly, I said after my laughing fit. You know you don't believe that, Dee. Even after the shit he's put you through, he'll keep you safe. When are you going to stop being in denial? Suddenly, the door burst open, and the Avalon Pack walked in. Ah, you guys made it on time. Perhaps we should have a party? Mr. George teased, looking up from the book he was reading. Harrison came in last and said, Don't forget the alcohol. A couple of snickers erupted from the class. Speaking of the devil, I muttered and groaned, ignoring Nell and Jennifer's bickering again. It quickly ended when Mr. George told them they would have detention if they don't shut their mouths. I heard that, Harrison grunted and sat in his seat. He glared at the board, muttering something incoherently. Okay, class. We will begin on page 196 in your textbook. I felt something hit the side of my head and land on my desk. My nostrils flared as I took the crumpled piece of paper and opened it up. It didn't take me long to realize Harrison's handwriting. I like what you did with your hair today. Did the washing machine do it? Maybe you should start a trend, it read. I knew I looked like crap. My appearance wasn't my biggest priority right now. However, he didn't need to remind me about it. It took me a whole lot of my sanity not to bang my head on my desk. I gripped my pen tighter and scribbled something sarcastic on the note. How did you know I used the washing machine? Oh, I know you're creepy and all, but you don't have to stalk me, I wrote. I crumpled it back up and threw the wad of paper. However, I have bad aiming. So instead of hitting Harrison in the head as I planned, I hit Perry. He looked up from his book, irritation crossing his features. I smiled apologetically at him while he threw the paper at Harrison. Before I knew it, the paper hit me in the head again. I slammed my fist on the desk and grabbed the paper and read it. Did your grandma dress you today? Did your dog dress you today? I replied, throwing the paper at him once again. I almost jumped up and down in success when it hit his nose. Gore. Right in the face. That doesn't even make sense, he replied. Being you, I wouldn't expect you to figure that out, genius. You're really stupid, you know. I'm stupid for you, babe. You do realize you called me a genius and stupid. I know that. I'm not stupid. The genius part was me being sarcastic. My eye was twitching when the paper hit me on the head again. I snapped my head at Harrison and hoped that daggers shot out of them. He smiled smugly at me, obviously amused at my irritation. Can you stop bothering me, White? I yelled at him from across the room. Stop pretending you don't like it, he smirked, crossing his arms. I don't like it, genius. Gosh, you're stupider than a tomato. I threw my hands up to show my aggravation. Everyone in the room stopped what they were doing and laughed at us. Is stupider even a word? And a tomato. Seriously? He snickered. Oh, you little boss? Mr. White, Ms. Turner, quiet down now or I will give you both detention, Mr. George warned. But she started it. Harrison looked at our teacher in disbelief, pouting his bottom lip and pointing a finger at me as if he were a little child. What? I did not start this. You were the one who threw me this stupid paper in the first place. Oh, shut up, you sound like a child. Come do, Mr. George tried to say. I sound like a child? By a mirror, White? Harrison laughed. You're more stupid than me. I mean, why buy a mirror if you're suggesting I listen to myself? You're just scared to buy a mirror because you'll see a monster on the other side. Kids, if you don't. The only monster I would see is you, Harrison retorted. That's enough, Mr. George boomed. His voice shook the tables, and the laughs died down. At that moment, he didn't sound like he was in his mid-20s. Harrison and I just sat there, seething and glaring at each other. Detention after school for both of you. Since you both seem to find note passing hilarious in my class, why don't you share it to all of us? Mr. George snatched the paper from my desk before I could grab it myself. He opened up the paper, and I turned beet red when he started reading it. I was so embarrassed that I hid my face behind my hands. However, the last thing Harrison wrote, the one thing I didn't read before snapping at Harrison, made me one angry teenage girl. At least I know that you muttering in your sleep that I'm sexy is definitely not the sarcastic side of you, babe. Mr. George read what Harrison wrote. The whole class burst into laughter. Mr. George tried to contain his strict composure but ended up laughing with everyone. He cleared his throat, while his eyes stared amusingly at the paper. I looked back at Harrison to see if he was embarrassed as well, but he just casually leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. A smirk made his way to his lips as he looked at me. Of course he wasn't embarrassed. He won this one. He got the last word when we were bickering in class, and the last word when we were arguing through notes. I was sure steam was blowing out of my ears as Harrison pointed a finger to me and threw up one finger and pointed to himself, throwing up 2 fingers. That only meant one thing. Harrison, 2 points. Jesse, 1 point. Oh, game on white. So, let me get this straight. You got detention with Harrison? Betty's clear blue eyes bulged out slightly. Do I even want to know? I groaned and rubbed my face in irritation. He's just an idiot, that's all. And because of him being an idiot, you bailed on shopping with me? Betty stomped her foot and whined, her black hair bouncing as she did. Why can't my idiot of a brother just share you for once? It's not like that. Look, I have to go or I'll be getting another detention. I sighed and hugged her quickly. We'll go shopping another time, I promise. Walking down the school's empty hallways, I finally made it to Mr. George's room. I scowled when I saw Harrison. Apparently, we were the only ones who received detention for today. How did I get so lucky? Note the sarcasm. Making sure I sat as far away as possible from him, I read the carved-in words of other students on the wooden desk and tried my best not to look at Harrison. All right then, Mr. George clapped his hands once. He stood up from his desk, stretched, and straightened out his light blue button-up shirt. I have to go do some business in the office. You two know the basics. No eating, no skipping, no goofing around, and most importantly, for the both of your sakes, no talking. Harrison scoffed. I turned back to glare at him, but he waved me off. Mr. J, you know that isn't possible. Yeah, well, I tried, our teacher replied and groaned. Sir, please don't leave me with, I pointed at Harrison in disgust, that thing. I tried my puppy dog look that consisted of widening my green eyes a bit, pouting my lower lip, and scrunching up my eyebrows. Mr. J simply raised one eyebrow and looked at me in disbelief. His expression read something along the lines of, seriously? Not going to work. Harrison tried to hold back his laughter but cracked, ending up in a laughing fit. He finally calmed down and pointed a finger at me. Whew, what kind of face was that? You looked like a cow that's constipated. How do you know what a cow that's constipated looks like, huh? I challenged, using a nagging voice. Well, obviously, just look at you, I gasped. I am not a cow. I heard a door slam and found that Mr. George escaped from us. Smart man, I thought. I'm stuck with stupid, again. I groaned for the 1000th time today. See? Poor Mr. George. You just like him, because, like every girl around here thinks he's like so hot. Harrison replied in a failed attempt at a girl voice, crossing his arms and throwing me one of his smirks. To tell you the truth, his smirk fit him well. Well, everything fit him well. He wasn't as hot as a Greek god, or any god for that matter, because he was so much hotter. His strong, angular jaw clenched when he was mad or when he was concentrated. His blue eyes shined out of his perfectly tanned skin and black hair that was whipped into a messy style. I found it hard not to stare at his sculpted chest and broad shoulders that were only being covered by a thin layer of gray cloth. Ooh, and his lips. His lips were nice, even when they spoke the meanest things or curved into a cocky smirk. I realized I was gawking at him and shook my head furiously in an effort to shake off the trance I was in. I don't like him, I snapped. You do. I don't. You do. No! Yes! No! I got up to throw my trash and stood there, crossing my arms. Idiot, I don't like him. Oh, and change the score. Add 1 point for me. I smiled in victory and did a little dance called the Cabbage Patch in my head. I smirked when his face scrunched up. Why? Harrison asked in disbelief. I got the last word in our previous argument. What? Yeah, I won that one. Remember the cow one? Yeah, I vaguely remembered I got the last word. I playfully tapped my chin and looked at the ceiling as if I was recalling the argument. Harrison got up slowly and stood across me, leaning against a desk. He smirked. So, who do you like cow? No one, I simply stated in a monotone voice. Liar. I am not a liar. Harrison took a step toward me. I took a step back. Perhaps you like Brian? There was a hint of jealousy in his tone, but I ignored it and almost laughed at his accusation. He's like my brother, idiot. I rolled my eyes and crossed my arms again. He took another step forward, while I took another step back. Nell? Seriously? I asked in disbelief and let out a small laugh. That's not possible. Again, he took another step forward and I took another step back. This continued with him throwing out random names and me denying everyone because I didn't like any one of them. I almost yelped when my back finally hit the wall, and Harrison came closer to me, leaning his lower arm on the wall above my head. I blinked a couple of times when I realized the situation I was in right now. His smell surrounded me and I inhaled it. The scent of a sweet, woodsy scent filled my nostrils and I almost closed my eyes in satisfaction. If I could take his cologne and bathe in it, I would. The heat from his body radiated onto my skin from the close proximity, and it felt good. My hands twitched, wanting to pull him closer, but I regained composure. Instead of gripping him closer, I crossed my arms above my belly and my hands gripped my jacket. I looked up to see that his eyes searched mine and his lips were so close that it almost brushed against mine when he talked. I think I know who you like, he said in a low voice, slightly smirking. His warm breath was somehow cool on my face. I held back a shiver of pleasure and gulped loudly. Who? I replied, waiting for an answer. Harrison leaned into my ear as if to tell me a secret. Is it me? He whispered, his lips brushing against my ear. A shiver went down my spine, and I almost collapsed when Harrison playfully grazed my earlobe. Look who's finally getting along, a voice teased. I pushed away Harrison and found Mr. George standing at the door with his arms crossed. Amusement was written all over his face. I felt the blood rush up from my neck and color my cheeks. It's not what it looks like, I stammered and gulped loudly. I practically ran to my desk, trying to get as far away from Harrison. I put my head down, trying to get back a normal heart rate